Hello, my name is Lucas, this is Bit of Lit, and I'm here to talk about a short story for Short Story Tuesday in Nightflyers and Other Stories by George R. R. Martin. I picked this book up a year ago. I don't remember exactly when, maybe in the summer. I haven't picked it up yet, but I thought finally, I said at the beginning of the year that I would be joining in on Short Story Tuesday with Around the Weird's own Mr. Nothing, who I highly recommend you check out his channel. Any moment I get to recommend that monster's channel, I take. He's got very good videos, but don't tell him I said that. Keep it secret, keep it safe. Anyway, I haven't read this whole thing, but I have read one story in particular, and that story is called Weekend in a War Zone, which I would like to talk to you guys about because, well, even before this recent event happening in Eastern Europe, it still would be relevant. Maybe it wouldn't be so publicly wouldn't be so much on the mind of the public consciousness in America. I don't know, but war is happening somewhere in the world at all times, unfortunately. One of the great tragedies of this world. But since this focuses on an American, this story, I would really like to talk about it and then talk about certain things that I've been seeing on Twitter. Lots of really dumb things, mostly, but one particular aspect of certain Americans, let's say. There is a man named Andrew Birch, who is a guy who spends his free time playing sports, and he eventually gets sick of it. He wants to try something new, something more physical. And luckily enough for him, he lives in a time, in a world, in a place where there is no need for this kind of senseless violence anymore. Or, not that there's ever a need for it, but humanity has moved past such tragedies. Except for the fact that these days, because of the bloodthirst of humanity, you can now pay to go to a place on the weekend. Lots of different locations, a couple different teams you can pay to play for, with, against. And these particular games are war games, where real people face real consequences in a real game. You don't quite know that right at first. You see him talking about his frustrations with the way his deployment has gone and the situation he's in, and you get the idea that, war is hell and that kind of thing. Okay, I'm following along, I'm getting it. I've seen these kind of things before. I've seen these tropes in media, or, if you had actually gone to war, you felt it. And then you start to see him sort of, he's complaining about where he is, what he's doing, where he's at, all this stuff. Then he starts complaining about his sergeant, and you think, yeah, okay, fuck the bosses, that kind of thing, But the things he's complaining about are like, it doesn't feel real enough. He's too young. The things he's saying don't seem to make sense with the character he's trying to play. What are you talking about? What? And then you find out that he's actually paid to come to this place. Okay. Which is a bit baffling, but sort of the point, right? And he starts complaining about the food, how he's paid so much money, but the food is still terrible, and he's complaining about more and more of the situation, and the way he's starting to complain is like the worst first world problems you can imagine. It's not real enough for me, and it sucks. Anyway, not ultimately, but soon after, he starts to face real combat and real consequences, and feels a genuine fear for his own life, and thinks to himself, no, I'm not going to do this again. This is a really bad idea, because I'm seeing actual consequences to this, and it's much worse than I realized. And he loses his weapon eventually, through some different things that happen. Don't want to spoil too much, he comes across another weapon from the enemy team, which is branded and labeled just like his, but with the other team's logo and that kind of stuff. And there is this character who is called Staccato, who does this pretty often, and is in some ways like revered by everybody because he's so talented. He's very good at tactics and knowing where to be at what time, and helping people and saving people, and saves Andrew Birch quite often. And this just drives him insane. He can't stand it. He starts wondering, he wonders like about the sergeant and about Andrew Birch, and he wonders like, how can he do this so much, and why is he so good, and why is he here? He's driving me crazy. In these games, there are ways to win, I suppose. Actually you don't really win, you just keep going to this senseless thing, but win is not the right term. But there are ways to advance. You can get some points, and these advancements are actually, it seems like they will serve as discounts, so you can come again at a cheaper price, which is disturbing. Maybe I misunderstood, but it seems like they're discounts. You can get kill points, you can get other kind of points, taking territories and that kind of stuff. Ultimately, one time he's saved by Staccato, and using the enemy's weapons, kills him, takes Staccato's weapon from the team he's on, and then kills another guy. And then you can see that he's like lost his mind, and he's waiting around through the jungle, waiting for his time to be up. And he thinks to himself, like, maybe I can come again next week. This was written short, coming off the tails of the Vietnam War, where there was a draft, and I think there is a very strong element. I know that George R. R. Martin was a strong protester, and I believe he chose not to be drafted, evaded the draft and that kind of thing as a protest. There's a certain word for that kind of person. It's slipping my mind right now. Anyway, I do think it is heavily criticizing that. There is also an element, I know from what I've heard, the Vietnam War was the first televised war, which is, I have read that Americans were really horrified by the things they were seeing, and then, the soldiers, when they came back, were disrespected after fighting in this monstrous, senseless war. There is this sense, especially by Andrew Birch, that these combat sports are entertainment, right? This is a game he can go and play. Something I've been seeing a lot lately. I don't know exactly if there was a sense when people were watching in America in the 70s, the 60s and all that, if there was a sense of like, this is fun to watch, this is enjoyable. I think I haven't really read that, but probably. But I'm guessing, for me, when I read this, all I can think of is with this recent thing that's happened in Eastern Europe, absolute tragedy. I'm seeing a lot of Spectator sports type tweets about this horror, and making comparisons to things that have happened in movies that they've seen, like Marvel movies, or other kinds of movies like that. I've seen Marvel movie clips that have been edited to show different events in the past couple of days, and I'm guessing there wasn't the internet at that time, but there is some translation to back then, for some people at least. I don't quite know. I wasn't around at the time, and I don't know. I don't have a full history of wealth of knowledge on what people were thinking, on what they were seeing on TV, but it does feel like things don't really change in a way, because this story, that aspect of it, this combat sports entertainment value aspect that Andrew Birch is searching for, really does feel like it translates to the way that many Americans these days are seeing what's happening, this tragedy in Eastern Europe, as spectator sports. And those people are vile, cruel monsters and should be disrespected at any moment. Anyway, it's an okay story, but it does have an interesting element to it, with that spectator sport, or going into the actual combat sport in the story, thing that does, for me, translate from at least what the character is thinking, maybe not what people were really feeling at the time, but to the modern day. I just wanted to complain about those people, because they're monsters and they're terrible. Their hearts should be with the people, not with how fun it is. I really hate those people. Okay, bye.